Welcome to Money is Freedom, a podcast exploring how finance and freedom connect in our lives. Created from thoughtful research and narrated by NotebookLM AI, this series brings you clear, meaningful insights into finance and beyond. In today's episode 3, we'll make it clear Bitcoin's surging, its dominance near. At 73 grand, it's hit the spot, near all-time highs. But now what? We'll dive into cycles, liquidity tight, why Bitcoin shines in this kind of light. Altcoins falter as dollars are cut, monetary shifts ahead. But now what? Whether you're seasoned or just taking a shot, join us to see what's next in the plot. Navigate the cycles, the twists, and the knot. Bitcoin's soaring high. But now what?
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Today we're going exploring the world of cryptocurrency.
Ooh, exciting.
But with a twist.
A twist.
We're going to be talking about how cryptocurrency is influenced by the Federal Reserve.
Interesting.
So today our guide is this article called Bitcoin's Cyclical Patterns and the Impact of Monetary Policy on Altcoins.
Okay.
By Chaos of Money.
All right.
And so I'm sure most of our listeners have heard of Bitcoin.
Right.
But have you ever noticed that it kind of goes through these like boom and bust cycles?
Yeah.
And then we have all these other cryptocurrencies like altcoins.
Yeah.
And it seems like sometimes they just explode in value out of nowhere.
It really does seem random.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So what's fascinating is that these two worlds that seem very separate
Yeah.
are actually really connected.
Yeah.
And the Fed's actions like adjusting interest rates and controlling how much money is circulating have a surprising impact on these crypto cycles.
Yeah. So let's break this down. First, can you tell me about this Bitcoin 4-year cycle thing?
Yeah. So the article mentions these halving events.
Okay.
Where the reward for mining Bitcoin gets cut in half every 4 years.
So imagine that you're a gold miner, and every 4 years, the amount of gold you find in each nugget gets cut in half.
Okay.
You'd have to work twice as hard to get the same amount of gold.
Right.
Well, that's essentially what happens with Bitcoin halving.
Oh, wow.
It creates this predictable pattern of scarcity.
That's,
and as you know,
yeah.
Historically, when something becomes scarcer, its value tends to rise.
Right. Supply and demand.
Exactly.
So less Bitcoins entering the market.
Yeah.
And then boom, the price goes up.
Yeah.
But the article dives a little bit deeper than that.
Okay.
And talks about Bitcoin dominance years.
Okay.
What's that all about?
So the article kind of breaks the 4-year cycle down even further.
Okay.
And suggests that there are certain years within the cycle where Bitcoin tends to outperform. So it suggests that the midterm pre-halving and the halving year itself are when Bitcoin kind of reigns supreme.
So it's Bitcoin's time to shine.
Yeah.
During these years.
Yeah.
And then it's outperforming all those altcoins.
Right.
So there are times when it would be more advantageous to be Bitcoin heavy.
Yeah.
In a portfolio.
That's the idea the article puts forward.
And this is where the Fed comes in.
Yeah.
So picture this. The Fed decides to tighten monetary policy.
Okay.
And essentially they're like a giant vacuum sucking up liquidity out of the system.
Right.
So what happens then?
Well, people get nervous.
Right.
And investors get anxious.
Yeah.
And they tend to flock to what they perceive as the safest asset in the crypto world.
So Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, exactly.
It's like the gold standard of crypto.
Yeah, you could say that.
So Bitcoin's dominance rises during these periods of tightening.
Yeah.
But what about all those other cryptos, the altcoins?
Yeah.
When do they get their time to shine?
So that's when we enter alt season.
Alt season?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's this period where all of a sudden alternative cryptocurrencies or altcoins start to outperform.
Okay.
And it's typically when the Fed loosens its grip on monetary policy
Okay.
and pumps more money into the system, increasing global liquidity.
So it's like the Fed is throwing a party.
Exactly.
And everyone's invited.
Everyone's invited.
Especially those risky, more speculative altcoins.
Especially those.
Okay.
Yeah, because when money is flowing freely, investors feel more adventurous.
Right.
And they're willing to take bigger bets on less established cryptocurrencies.
So everyone wants to be the next Bitcoin.
Right.
Everyone wants to find the next big thing.
Exactly.
But the article mentions that it's not just the Fed's actions that drive these altcoin rallies.
Right.
So sometimes individual altcoins just have their own stories.
Yeah, they have their own fundamentals, and
Yeah.
they're the things that really drive the price up.
Okay, so give me an example.
So let's take Ethereum.
Okay.
Remember the Ethereum merge? That was a big event.
Yeah, it was big news.
Yeah.
That was when they switched over from proof of work to proof of stake.
Right.
And it made the whole system much more energy efficient
Exactly.
and scalable.
Yeah, and it led to a huge price rally for Ethereum,
Huh.
even though it happened during a period when Bitcoin was generally dominating.
So even in a Bitcoin dominance year,
Yeah,
an altcoin can still break out if it has a really good story.
right, if it has strong fundamentals.
Okay, so it's like a combination of the macroeconomic conditions
Yeah.
and internal project breakthroughs
Right.
that cause these altcoin rallies.
Exactly. It's not just about riding the waves created by the Fed.
You're right.
It's about identifying the altcoins that are paddling the hardest
Okay.
and have the most potential to catch those waves.
Out of it.
The article also mentions this analyst named Benjamin Cowan from Into the Cryptoverse,
Okay.
and he's been tracking these Bitcoin dominance years.
Okay. And what has he found?
So his analysis has observed that during Bitcoin dominance years, Bitcoin tends to attract the lion's share of investment, and it draws capital away from altcoins.
So it's like a tug of war
Yeah.
between Bitcoin and altcoins.
Right.
And the Fed is like the referee
Exactly.
tilting the playing field.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Okay, so let's get practical.
Okay.
What are some key takeaways here for investors who want to navigate the crypto world?
First, timing is everything.
Okay.
If we're in a Bitcoin dominance year, as Cowan suggests we might be,
Yeah.
it might be wise to lean towards Bitcoin.
Okay, so if the Fed is tightening and the economy feels shaky, Bitcoin is the safe haven.
That's the idea.
Okay.
Bitcoin is like that sturdy oak tree that weathers the storm,
Right.
while those more delicate altcoins might get blown around a bit.
Okay, but even during those Bitcoin heavy times,
Yeah.
if I'm interested in altcoins,
Yeah.
I should look for projects with strong fundamentals.
Exactly.
So remind me, what is a strong altcoin?
Imagine you're looking at a company stock.
Okay.
You want to see real world use cases.
You want to see a solid team behind it.
Okay.
And you want to see evidence that the project is actually solving a problem.
Got it.
Don't chase hype. Look for substance.
So solid fundamentals over fleeting hype.
Right.
Okay, what else?
Pay attention to what the Fed is doing.
Yep.
They're like the conductors of the economic orchestra.
Okay.
And their actions send ripple effects throughout the markets.
So what should we be watching for?
Keep an eye out for things like interest rate cuts and balance sheet expansions.
Okay.
These are signs that the Fed is loosening its grip on the money supply,
Right.
and that tends to signal a potential altcoin season.
So we should be checking the global liquidity index regularly.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. The article also mentions something called thinking in Bitcoin terms.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So instead of just looking at an altcoin's price in US dollars, which can be deceiving,
Okay.
you should analyze it in relation to Bitcoin.
Okay, so give me an example.
Let's say an altcoin's price is going up in dollars. It might seem like it's performing really well,
Right.
but then when you check its price chart against Bitcoin,
Yeah.
you notice it's actually flatlining or even declining.
So what does that tell me?
It means that it's not actually gaining value.
Oh.
It's just being pulled along by Bitcoin's overall market movement.
So it's not really performing well on its own.
Exactly.
It's just being kind of propped up by Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like a boat being lifted by the tide
Got
rather than powered by its own engine.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, so thinking in Bitcoin terms can be a very powerful tool.
Okay, so we've got these 4-year Bitcoin cycles driven by these halving events.
Right.
We've got the Fed playing a surprisingly influential role in crypto markets.
Yeah.
And we've got some actionable advice here for investors to help them navigate these cyclical patterns.
It's all connected,
Yeah.
and it can get very complicated.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is just one perspective,
Right.
one deep dive into a very complex world.
You know what they say? The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly.
But speaking of going deeper,
Yeah,
I understand that Chaos of Money also has their own podcast.
they do. It's called Money is Freedom.
And I bet they dive even deeper into this stuff
Oh, yeah.
on their podcast.
Much deeper.
Okay, so I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely recommend it.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay.
So the article that we've been discussing mostly focuses on the U.S. Federal Reserve,
Right.
but we live in a globalized world.
Absolutely.
So what about all the other central banks?
Yeah.
Could their monetary policies also be impacting the crypto market?
That's a good question.
Maybe even counteracting or amplifying what the Fed is doing?
Yeah, something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. So we'll pick up this thread in part 2 of our deep dive,
Sounds good.
where we'll be exploring some more practical applications of this knowledge.
Excellent.
and offer some more tips for navigating the crypto markets. So be sure to tune in for part 2 of our deep dive.
We'll see you there.
And in the meantime, happy exploring.
Yeah, stay curious out there.
Right, see you there.
Bye. So it's like we've zoomed out from looking at just one country to like the whole world map.
Right.
And suddenly we see all these other players,
Yeah.
all these other central banks with their own monetary policies
Yeah.
that are all potentially pushing and pulling on the crypto market in different directions.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It's like a giant tug-of-war with multiple teams and shifting alliances.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we make sense of this global crypto puzzle?
Right.
Where do we even begin?
Well, let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
Imagine you're a listener who's just starting to explore crypto.
Okay.
What are some key takeaways for you?
It can feel overwhelming, right?
Oh, definitely.
Especially when you're first starting out and you're hearing all this stuff about Bitcoin cycles and the Fed and global liquidity.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
What's that?
Knowledge is power. And the more you understand about the forces that are driving the crypto market,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions.
So where do we even start?
Well, first and foremost, remember that timing matters.
Okay.
Bitcoin tends to have these periods of dominance,
Right.
especially when the Fed is tightening monetary policy and the global economy feels a bit shaky.
Okay. So if I'm feeling risk averse,
Yeah.
Bitcoin might be the way to go during those times.
Yeah, it's often seen as a safe haven asset,
Okay.
kind of like a digital gold.
Right.
But even during those Bitcoin-heavy periods,
Yeah.
it's worth keeping an eye on altcoins, especially those with strong fundamentals.
Okay. So remind me, what should I be looking for in an altcoin to know that it's a strong altcoin?
Think of it like you're evaluating a company.
Okay.
Does the altcoin have a real-world use case?
Yeah.
Is there a solid team behind it actively developing and improving the technology?
Got it.
And does it actually solve a problem or fulfill a need in the market?
So it's not just about jumping on the hype train.
No.
It's about doing my research
Exactly.
and finding projects that are building something meaningful.
Right.
Right.
And don't be afraid to dig deep.
Okay.
Read white papers, explore the technology, and really understand the problem that the project is trying to solve.
It's like being a detective,
Yeah,
piecing together clues to uncover the hidden gems.
exactly. And remember, patience is a virtue.
Okay.
The crypto market is still young,
Yeah.
and it takes time for these projects to mature.
So no overnight riches.
It's more like planting a seed
Okay.
and nurturing it over time.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah, the most rewarding investments are often the ones that require patience and a long-term perspective.
Got it. So we've got risk management, we've got diversification, we've got strong fundamentals,
Right.
and patience.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, don't forget about those cyclical patterns we talked about.
Right. Those Bitcoin dominance years.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember, Bitcoin tends to have those periods of dominance.
Yeah.
Especially when the Fed is tightening monetary policy.
Right.
Those might be good times to lean towards Bitcoin
Okay.
or to consider taking some profits off the table.
Right.
And then when the Fed is loosening and global liquidity is increasing, that's when altcoin season is more likely to heat up.
So we need to be both fundamentally sound and macro aware.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
But with practice, you can become much more confident and successful.
Okay. I like that. So we talked about the Fed,
Yeah.
and obviously we can see how their monetary policy can impact the crypto market.
Right.
But what about the actions of other central banks around the world?
Right.
Could that also be creating some opportunities or challenges for us?
So let's imagine for a second that the Fed is tightening,
Okay.
but the European Central Bank is loosening.
So they're moving in opposite directions.
Exactly.
Okay. What would happen?
Well, it could create a scenario where capital flows out of dollar-denominated assets
Okay.
and into euro-denominated assets, and that would potentially boost the euro's value relative to the dollar.
Okay. So how does that impact crypto?
Well, remember that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are traded globally.
Right.
So if the euro is strengthening against the dollar,
Yeah.
it could make Bitcoin more appealing to European investors
Right.
and drive up its price in euros.
So even though the Fed is tightening,
Yeah.
the actions of another central bank could be pushing Bitcoin's price in a totally different direction.
Exactly.
Wow.
It just goes to show that the crypto market is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
And it's influenced by a multitude of factors,
Right.
including this interplay between different central banks.
It's like we're trying to understand the weather patterns of a global economy.
Yeah.
With all these different winds and currents.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
Pushing and pulling in different directions.
And just like predicting the weather.
Yeah.
Understanding these macroeconomic forces can help us anticipate potential shifts in the market.
Right. So it's not just about understanding Bitcoin's 4-year cycle.
Right.
Or watching the Fed.
It's about understanding the global system.
It's a lot bigger.
It's much bigger than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've covered the technology. We've talked about these macroeconomic forces.
Right.
But what about the human element
Yes.
of the crypto market?
Well, cryptocurrency is ultimately driven by people.
Right.
By their beliefs and their fears and their hopes.
It's easy to get lost in the charts and graphs.
Yeah.
And forget that.
There are real people.
Yeah, that there are real people behind all of this.
With their own investment goals.
Yeah, so how do we factor that in?
I think it's about approaching the market with a blend of analytical thinking and emotional intelligence.
What do you mean by emotional intelligence in this context?
So we need to understand the technical aspects, the cycles, the monetary policies.
Yeah.
But we also need to be aware of the psychological factors that can drive market sentiment.
So we need to kind of balance the head and the heart.
Exactly. The logic and the emotion. And maybe even more importantly, recognize that we don't have all the answers. This market is constantly evolving. It's throwing us curveballs and challenging our assumptions all the time.
So we have to stay humble.
Yeah, stay curious.
Stay curious.
And be open to new information.
Okay, so let's take a minute and reflect.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot.
We have.
We've explored Bitcoin cycles, the Fed's influence, the importance of strong fundamentals, the power of thinking in Bitcoin terms.
Right.
Global implications of central bank policies, even the psychology of the market.
That's right. It's been quite a journey.
It has been.
But the adventure isn't over yet.
Okay. Where are we going next?
In the final part of our deep dive, we'll delve into some specific strategies for navigating the crypto market.
All right, so we're going to get even more practical.
More practical, yeah. Drawing on all the insights we've discussed today.
I like it.
So stay tuned as we venture even deeper into this fascinating world of cryptocurrency.
All right, so welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our deep dive into Bitcoin, altcoins, and
the forces at play.
Yeah, the forces at play.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've gone over Bitcoin's 4-year cycles.
Right.
The Fed's influence.
Yep.
The importance of having those strong fundamentals.
Absolutely.
We talked about thinking in Bitcoin terms. We even touched on the global implications of central bank policies and even
the psychology
of the market.
Yeah.
So hopefully everyone listening is starting to see the crypto market with like fresh eyes.
New perspectives.
Yeah, new perspectives.
For sure.
And you're recognizing the interplay between the technology, the economics, and even the human psychology.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, and now it's time to put all that knowledge into practice.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's talk strategy.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to put on my little crypto explorer hat.
Okay.
And venture out into this jungle.
All right, let's go.
What are some tools that we need to pack in our backpack?
All right, so the first thing we need to talk about is risk management.
Okay, risk management.
This is your compass that will guide you through the ups and downs of the crypto market.
Okay, so the crypto market can be very volatile.
Very volatile.
So how do I avoid making those emotional decisions?
Well, rule number 1 is never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Okay, that's like the golden rule.
Yeah, the golden rule of investing.
Okay, don't bet the farm.
Especially in crypto.
Right. Okay, what else?
So another really important principle is diversification.
Diversification.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
So spread your investments across different cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
And also consider allocating a portion of your portfolio to more stable assets like stocks or bonds.
So you're saying that my crypto portfolio shouldn't be 100% crypto?
Exactly.
It should be more diversified.
Right. It helps to mitigate risk.
Okay.
And smooth out the volatility.
So it's like a well-diversified meal.
Exactly.
Fruits, veggies, and
a little bit of dessert.
A little bit of dessert.
But not too much.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we've got risk management and diversification.
Right.
But how do I actually pick which cryptocurrencies to invest in?
Well, remember those strong fundamentals we talked about?
Right.
Those are your guide.
Okay.
You want to look for projects with real-world use cases.
Yeah.
Solid teams, active communities.
It's not just about chasing hype.
Yeah.
It's more about actually doing my research.
Yeah. Look beyond the hype.
Okay.
Find the projects that are building something meaningful.
Got it.
And don't be afraid to dig deep.
Dig deep.
Read white papers.
Okay.
Explore the technology. Really understand the problem that the project is trying to solve.
Like being a crypto detective.
Yeah,
Piecing together all those clues
that's exactly
to find the hidden gems.
And remember, patience is key.
Patient.
This market is still relatively young.
Yeah, it's only been around for like a decade.
Exactly. And it takes time for these projects to mature and to reach their full potential.
So don't expect to get rich quick.
No, think of it like planting a seed
Okay.
and nurturing it over time.
Okay.
The most rewarding investments are often the ones that require patience and a long-term perspective.
So risk management, diversification, strong fundamentals, and patience.
Those are your guiding principles.
All right. So those are my tools in my Crypto Explorer backpack.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready to go.
Let's go.
But
Wait.
you mentioned those Bitcoin cycles
Oh, yeah.
and the Fed. Should we factor that in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So remember, Bitcoin tends to have these periods of dominance.
Yeah.
Especially when the Fed is tightening monetary policy.
Okay.
Those might be good times to lean towards Bitcoin.
Okay.
Or to consider taking some profits off the table.
Okay. So when the Fed is loosening and global liquidity is rising,
Yeah,
that's when altcoin season might be coming.
exactly.
Okay.
Keep an eye on those macroeconomic indicators.
Like the global liquidity index.
Right. And watch for signals that the tides are turning in favor of altcoins.
So we need to be fundamentally sound and macro aware.
You got it.
Okay.
It's a delicate dance.
It is.
But with knowledge and practice, you can become a more confident and successful crypto explorer.
So we've learned a lot today
We have.
about Bitcoin, about altcoins,
Yeah.
about the Fed,
The global economy.
about the global economy,
Yeah.
about the psychology of the market.
We've covered a lot.
And hopefully everyone listening feels a little bit more equipped to go out there and navigate the crypto world.
Yeah, go explore.
Yeah, go explore.
Stay curious.
And remember, knowledge is power.
Yeah, the more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for today's deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
See you.